Greg from GamerPops. Most of what we talk about here on GamerPops is stuff, for kids and for families, but every now and then I like to throw in a little something that's just for the parents. And if you're like me and you were a child in the 80s, we had our cartoons. Some of them, like G.I. Joe, like Transformers, Ninja Turtles, they've stood the test of time and they're still current and relevant today. Some of the other ones may have slipped a little bit by the wayside, but they're still there, offering up a heaping slice of nostalgia. And it depresses me in a way to think one of my favorites when I was 8 years old, 9 years old, is now celebrating its 30th anniversary, and that's Voltron. So if you were like me, a child of the mid-80s, you remember Voltron. It was 5 robot lions that merged to form a giant robot. That was the cool version. There was also a vehicle Voltron. There was a bunch of little vehicles that could then form another robot, but it wasn't as cool as the lion Voltron. So to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Voltron, we've got a book here, a great hardcover put together by Viz Media. They've been involved with some of the more recent iterations of Voltron and relaunching, trying to bring Voltron out of the 80s and into the 21st century. I don't know, for me it's hits the nostalgia button, so I like my vintage Voltron, but I think it'd be cool to see, if this is something that kids today could get behind. So this hardcover, I'm going to show you a couple of pictures just we'll throw them up on the screen there for you. But essentially, we've got a really gorgeous, high-quality hardcover book that's divided up into 2 sections. The first section is really the history of Voltron. So we get the, how the show was created, who was responsible for it. It was, filling content on Saturday morning TV. But of course, from there, the legend of Voltron grew, and it became a real icon and a favorite of kids like myself. And of course, you've got toys. I had one of the robots. I'm not even sure if it was an authentic one, or it may have been like the Japanese version that the North American toys were based on. But it was metal, it was heavy, it was awesome, and as you can see behind me, I've got some of my more nostalgic toys here on the shelf. I wish I had Voltron back in my collection. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, it went away. But, for me to be able to sit down and go through this book, so not only looking at the history of Voltron, but then we get into the second section, which is actually talking all about, the show. So the characters, the planets, the technology of the lions. It's a little hokey because it's all written, in character, as if they're talking about the actual Voltron being real and all of his adventures being authentic. So it's kind of funny and goofy in that way, but all in all, it's a lot of content that kids today aren't going to give a hoop, a darn about. But, for me, I enjoyed reading this, and I think if you're like me and you grew up in the 80s and Voltron was one of your shows, check it out. It's a fun read, and it really, hits a sweet spot for those of us that loved our lions that formed a giant robot with a giant flaming sword that battled space robot monsters. So again, I'm Greg from GamerPops. Thanks for listening, and if you like Voltron, check out this book from Viz Media. Thanks a lot.